Hey folks, how's it going? Dr. Spin. Eclectic album reviews and general musical meanderings. This week I'm going to talk about Deleted Scenes by the Once and Future Band. One of the things that people ask me a lot about, especially as I've gotten older, like how do you keep listening to new music? We like to get locked into our classic ideas of the music that we listen to, and sometimes it's hard to break the surface on something new. Very often I have to find a frame for the music to kind of figure out how I'm going to listen to it. And then I have to kind of understand that the first 2 or 3 listens I'm probably not going to like or probably aren't going to make too much sense out of. That was not the case with Once and Future Band. From the very second I put this CD in my player, gave it a listen, I knew that this was going to speak to me. I knew this was right up my alley, because what the Once and Future Band does so well is they take progressive rock ideas and the beautiful song structures of pop music, and they put them together. These are the 2 zones that I love to live in the most. Like on this one hand, I'm a King Crimson, a Rush fan. On this hand, I'm like a Beatles, Jellyfish fan. Now here's the thing. Those 2 endpoints are not exclusive from one another. And I think it's one of the things that makes Deleted Scenes so successful. When you listen to the album all the way through, it's actually extremely varied. But when you have a bunch of variety on an album, one of the things that you can run the risk of is losing your listener because things don't cohere. But what Once and Future Band does incredibly well is stay within these 2 boundaries. There's 2 edges of what they do that sounds like, on one end, very song-based pop, songwriter, Beatles-derived music. And on this end, much more experimental, almost like jazz rock styles. And they occupy these spaces in between. And there's a very strong argument that you can make that one of the first progressive rock albums was the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's. And whether you believe that or not, certainly a lot of the things that progressive rock would become, those seeds were planted on Sgt. Pepper's. Now, if you believe that, what Once and Future Band is doing is really not that hard to get your mind wrapped around, even though when you listen to the album, it seems so very varied. Because on the side at which they mine pop songwriting conventions, they have a very strong association with bands like Supertramp, ELO, maybe even Steely Dan to a degree on that more songwritery side of things, right? All those bands can be traced back to the Beatles. So it's not really that far out. It's just the bands that kind of expanded on the more experimental aspects of what the Beatles were doing. They evolved in this sort of string of 70s arena rock groups. That is exactly what Once and Future Band on one side of their sound is really all about. And they got 3 or 4 tracks that are right up that alley, like Freaks, Problematic, and the opening track, Andromeda.
Just waiting for someone to share my silence. We'll never need to fill dead air, 'cause breathing proves we're still here. And for her love I'll wait this lonely lifetime if I have to. Please let it be. Oh, please let it be.
What I immediately noticed about the songs of Deleted Scenes was that, sure, they've got great songwriting and they've got awesome melodies. But the thing that really makes these songs stand out is the rich harmonic structures that they use in making the music. Clearly the work of a keyboard player writing these pieces. And that's Joel Rabinow's the lead singer and keyboardist. And clearly he's got some jazz vocabulary in what he does. And that really rich harmonic structure is what drives a lot of these songs home. I mean, for example, that song Andromeda, first verse of that chorus is in the key of C. And then, quite craftily, they sneak the second verse up a key into the key of D and play the rest of the song out in the key of D. Why do that? Well, it gives the song a little bit of a sense of lifting. We've seen that before in some of the work of Jellyfish. But they don't have to do things like that for a song to be effective. It's not required for a song to change keys between the first and second verse. But because the Once and Future Band understand harmony, understand theory so well, they can put these things in there. They sound natural and they give elements to the song's life that you wouldn't have in another case if you just played it all in the same key. Now, on the other side of their sound, of what their style, what they're playing with, is these kind of jazz rock tunes. And there's several of them that are just straight up instrumentals, okay? This side of their sound really recalls to me, and this was my entry point for a lot of jazz fusion in the 70s. It reminds me of like Bill Bruford's mid to late 70s work, One of a Kind, that era. Those mini Moog sounds that Dave Stewart and those kind of guys were using at the time, I hear very strongly on this album, just the sound quality. But then when you back it up with intricate drumming and smart compositional techniques, It really recalls some of that stuff. Bill Bruford, Return to Forever, all that kind of late 70s jazz rock. Now, the reason that the variety in this album is so successful is not because they have these pop songs and they have these jazz rock songs and they ping-pong back and forth between those two different styles. Not at all. Instead, there's songs that line a spectrum between those two extremes. You know, they have songs that are more melodically and more song-based, and they have ones that have a little bit more experimental harmony, a little bit more experimental melodic stuff. So this space they have in between is where they start to kind of garner some comparisons to like Gentle Giant and maybe some of Genesis's mid-70s work. What really lies at the core of these songs is songwriting. There is a mindset to progressive rock music where music comes first, then you just put the lyrics on top of it. I don't get that again from Once a Future Band. I think that these guys are songwriters. All the other complex things are ways of dressing up what is essentially that song. And it's the thing that makes this album so great. It's so beginning to end an engaging experience, not a dud song in the entire experience. Even though you have these songs that fall in between these extremes of being jazzy, but still have a sense of being an advanced pop song. The rich harmonization and sort of complex structures that happen in songs like Airplane and Automatic Air fill in that space between the jazz rock on one end and the straight ahead kind of like almost pop stylings at the other end.
I am a stranger to love. I lie awake and look into the dark. Pray for my movie to start. I sit alone in the window, waiting for someone to release me.
I'm always in awe of any band that's able to navigate that and find ways to make something that's very singable and very accessible and resonates easily with the listener, but still able to, within that structure, do complex and adventurous things. And that's the thing that, again, makes Once a Future Band so successful. This album, Deleted Scenes, just travels up and down that spectrum throughout the entire course of the album without missing a beat the entire time. Never to the point where the variety challenges the listener, keeps them from being able to keep up with what Once a Future Band's mission statement is. So having a good idea about the boundaries of their style is one of the things that makes Once a Future Band so successful on Deleted Scenes, makes the album work so well, despite the variety of music, the variety of styles that you'll find on the album. The other thing that really helps it cohere is the idiosyncratic musicianship of the musicians involved. Okay, this is one of the other reasons that progressive rock in the 70s was able to get away with so much. Because the guys who played, those people who played in those bands, had very distinctive ways of playing. You can hear Chris Squire play, you know it's him. You can hear Neil Peart play, you know it's him. You can hear Steve Hackett play, you know it's him. So whenever you hear those kinds of players who's got such a distinctive approach to their instrument and you put them in a band and they're the things that help hold the band together, that also gives the band consistency across the course of the album's listen. I hear the individuality of the musicians coming through in these pieces. And that helps the album to cohere as well.
Where the night meets day, the queen blew a kiss as I sailed out across the bay. I soon met misfortune among the salt and spray. I'm just a sailor lost his way.
So again, if you haven't figured this out, I love this album. Deleted Scenes is an album that's been vying for the album of the year slot all year long. I think it's great. And if you're one of those people that's anywhere on that spectrum, if you like Jellyfish or you like Supertramp and bands like that with adventurous pop songs, Once and Future Band's going to get you. If you like on the other end, a little bit more adventurous jazz rock stylings or that sort of thing, Once and Future Band, again, has got your number in there, okay? So check this album out. I really can't suggest it highly enough. But that's all I'm going to say about it for this week. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe and share it out with your friends. Also follow me over on Spotify. I'll put another track up on the ever-growing 2021 playlist over there. Also be on the lookout for my elimination posts, doing quick 2 or 3 minute posts that talk about how the path that I'm taking to the album of the year. So please keep your eyes open for those. And until I catch you later, I'll see you on the flip side.